I moved to the United States on June 6, 2002 against my personal will. All the relationships that I'd built up to that point have been left behind in Mexico, the land where I was able to live for my first 9 years on this planet. In Mexico, I learned to read and write in Spanish, and from an early age I knew I enjoyed literature. I read many books in Spanish, and I even went on a couple of poetry contests as a young kid. When I arrived at Goodman Elementary in Arlington, Texas, I was greeted by my fourth grade teacher, Miss Perez. She was Puerto Rican and spoke to me in Spanish, which made me feel really comfortable as a new immigrant student, even though we had different accents in the way we spoke. Transitioning into the American school system was no easy task. Yes, I was in a bilingual class, but everything we learned in English was so overwhelming to me. From simple math word problems to English to lunchtime with some of my classmates that didn't speak Spanish. I remember that our principal, Miss Albert, had a no Spanish rule in the cafeteria, so I remember me and my immigrant friends would just speak Spanish quietly during lunch, almost as if we were ashamed of our native tongue. In retrospect, I wish I would have embraced speaking Spanish in America more, because that's the way it seems that our education system is going, that you need an extra language to truly thrive in this country. As soon as I stepped foot in America, I knew that I had to go to college one day, but without knowing a lick of English, that seemed like a real long shot. I became determined to learn English as quickly as possible. I read books and mimicked the way people would say things on TV. By the end of my fourth grade year, I had excelled in class and taken the tax test because it was administered in Spanish and I felt pretty good about it. One day in May, Miss Perez told us that we were going to take an end of the year English proficiency exam the coming up week. I was terrified of this because I still did not feel comfortable at all with my English capabilities and I was afraid that I would disappoint Miss Perez with my score. I considered skipping the day of the test, but my mom, who had always put an emphasis on education, would not let me skip. I took the test, tried my best, and before I knew it, it was thankfully done. I tried not to think about the test when I went home, but a couple of weeks passed and we finally received the scores. Miss Paris was elated with the entire class because a lot of us had done pretty well. In my heart, I knew I hadn't done that well on the test. Miss Paris started meeting with us one by one outside the classroom to go over our score, and I was ashamed to go up there because I didn't want her to be disappointed. When I met her outside the hall, where she was holding the one-on-one meetings, she told me to have a seat next to her on the floor. She told me not to get nervous and that she wasn't going to yell at me, so I nervously smiled. Then she told me to read a word from the score sheet. The word was intermediate. She smiled warmly at me and told me that she was proud of me, and to me this meant the world. She told me that for a first-year English learner, an intermediate result by the end of the year of their first year in America was pretty rare. I felt proud, happy, and I regained my intellectual confidence, and I was determined for once and for all to get English down packed and go to college one day.